welcome to another episode of Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman. Well, we got another episode to talk about, and this one is also another request as well. Just recently, I recorded my Five Nights at Freddy's episode that was requested by one of my buddies from Eastern Illinois University. But now I got another movie request to talk about, and this one was actually from a couple of weeks ago. But my other request for Five Nights at Freddy's came in right out of the gate. So now I'm gonna follow up with with this request. And this movie I'm gonna talk about is The Blues Brothers. And I'm not gonna do it alone. I'm gonna do a collaboration again, but this time with one of my coworkers from Naperville Community Television, and that would be Joe Kennedy. Joe, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Mark, I'm super excited to be joining you. Excited to talk about the Blues Brothers. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. I listened to one of your podcasts and I was like, I think you asked me what's your favorite movies or whatever, and I was like, the Blues Brothers. We should do something, talk about it. And so here we are, and I'm excited to be here, Mark.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, and
Yeah.
thanks for bringing the movie up because Blues Brothers is another favorite movie of mine. Obviously, because let's be honest, when you see like the DVD cover or the video VHS cover, or even the name itself, the Blues Brothers, like what do you think of this? Like, what do you think of, or who do you think of when you hear the Blues Brothers?
You think of the blue, Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi. You think of those two. You think of just like Chicagoland and just like soul music and jazz music and Joliet area, and it's kind of growing up close by. It's like that home feeling that I also really can connect to, and I feel like a lot of people from Chicago, like in the '80s and '70s, there's some good films from around the area that are just classics. So Blues
Yeah,
Brothers is one of them.
yeah, exactly. Blues Brothers is one of them. But also, the movie itself is based on their Saturday Night Live sketch of the same name, which also starred John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. Now, the sketch itself, I mean, it's still online. Like the sketch itself is online, but how this sketch aired, it aired on Saturday Night Live as it was like 1970. I believe it was 1978, and that was when
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live was starting to come. Although Saturday Night Live didn't air until 1975, but like the popularity started to grow, and one of their sketches was uh, was the Blues Brothers with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. To which John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd are two of the early SNL celebrities on the show.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And then,
have you seen Saturday Night Live, or maybe my
oh
friend?
yeah, I've seen it plenty of times. I've seen multiple Saturday nights like with my family. It's a little later, and I'll be like, oh, I'll stay up, watch a little bit. But
Mhm.
neither of us were around during the '70s and '80s during that time.
Right.
And so, when I was like researching everything just about the Blues Brothers, I found it interesting, like the original name of the Blues Brothers. Do you know whose idea that was?
Who?
It was Howard Shore, who's a composer. He's made music for like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. And I thought that was just
Oh,
so crazy that, like, I don't know, it's kind of random that it was Howard Shore who made the name. So, and I saw it was right around that time too, in the '70s and '80s.
I never knew. I didn't even know that I didn't know. I didn't know Howard Shore had involvement of of creating the Blues Brothers. I mean, obviously, when I think of the Blues Brothers, I always think of John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, especially with
Yeah,
Saturday Night Live.
yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I'm glad that you brought that up too. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think Howard Shore was involved with the movie at one. I don't think he
No, I
was.
don't think so. I think it was just like a thing where they were sitting down somewhere, like wherever, and they're just like talking about stuff. I was like, yeah, Blues Brothers. It's like that's a great name.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't see anything about him, being involved in the movie and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see him, although although the music composer for the Blues Brothers was, well, actually, technically, I mean, I guess you could say, like, I mean, I mean, I guess you could say, like, you have different music, but
yeah,
in the credits, like in the opening credits, like you see Ira Newborn's name, in the
Yeah.
opening credits, like who's involved with the music.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, and then but also like you said, then you have like all these other artists like Cab Calloway, Ray Charles, James Brown, and like those are all people with their own songs and stuff like that, which is also one of my favorite parts about the Blues Brothers movie. Mark, is the cameos in it and the artists and musicians that are in the movie and how they're funny in it too. They're just like stepping out of their kind of comfort zone in a way that they're just musicians, but they're acting in these ones. So
right, and on top of that, John Belushi is a musician himself. In his in his time, right prior to the Blues Brothers, like he started his own band a while back.
yeah,
And
is the movie like kind of like a like his band in a way that it's like kind of reflects him?
I think so,
Yeah,
but from what I know, this is but with Blues Brothers, this is like the role that made him famous.
yeah, yeah. This role and definitely Animal House before it though. So I'd
Yes,
say that
Animal House
one.
was before that.
But every actor actress you need one or two. You can't just have one big movie. You need two big movies to make it big time. So this was definitely the one that probably made him really big. And of course SNL getting popular too,
Hmm.
like you said. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, they actually both got their start with Second City as well. Second City is the comedy club similar to SNL, but it's like one of those clubs or groups where it leads you up to SNL, and that's where like John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd got their start too.
huh,
And
nice.
John Belushi, he went to college. He actually went to college at DuPage, and the school in Wheaton that is actually called Wheaton Central.
Yeah. Oh wow.
But
Was it Dan Aykroyd? Did he go to COD or it was just Belushi?
Belushi,
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd was, I believe, Dan Aykroyd is Canadian.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I find it amazing too because like knowing the fact that one of the most well known, like one of the most well known celebrities grew up in our own backyard. Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing?
Yeah. I mean, we both have probably multiple people that, go to COD, went to COD and everything like that. So it's cool to see that. And I know COD, they really do like to show off his work there and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, they just did like a whole like artist thing with like the Andy Warhol exhibit, and John Belushi was one of them. So
Yeah.
I was a story on that at work. So yeah,
Hmm. And the theater is named after him too. Although Jim Belushi, John's brother, was also involved with this too. with
yeah,
with the theater as well. But the name itself, like you get it's the Belushi Theater at the College of DuPage. It's magnificent. I
yeah.
really love the theater, and I am having the College of DuPage name a theater after the brothers. I mean, that's a high honor right there.
That is, yeah, definitely. I'm sure the family loves that too, and they're honored to have that after their either son or brother, whoever it may be. So yeah,
Yeah. But unfortunately, I mean, it is sad too that his career cut short after the Blues Brothers. I mean,
yeah, and it
it
even touching on like his stuff at the Blues Brothers, like on set and stuff like that. I know like the movie had to be pushed back because he was struggling with his addictions and stuff like that with cocaine too and stuff. So I
Mhm.
mean that's why it was kind of tough because the movie was being pushed back, and then everyone, the actresses like Dan Aykroyd, they were trying to help him and stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah,
It was tough too. I mean, like this is one of his last movies, and and in 1982 is when he passed away due to the drug overdose. It was a drug overdose that took a huge effect on him in 1982, and it's real sad too. Like he had a very good promising career, and
mm-hmm.
he's not the only. He's. I mean, I actually want to say this. I actually want to give a moment of. I actually want to give a moment of silence for, not only John Belushi but all the other actors who are involved with this movie too. Cab Calloway, Carrie Fisher, Ray Charles, anybody involved with this movie. I want to give a moment of silence. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's so many recognizable actors that you see in this movie. Well, besides John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, Cab Calloway. You mentioned Cab Calloway, and
yeah.
then Carrie Fisher was in this movie too.
I know she's in a crazy role in this movie as well.
Yeah,
Her role in this movie is like the mystery woman, but it's like her John Belushi's or Jake's like former
X.
fiance, ex, pretty much
Yeah,
trying to kill him in any way possible. So
yeah.
yeah, but like you said, like Carrie Fisher, this is before she became famous and everything, correct?
Well, actually,
Right
this is
after.
actually she did Star Wars before Blues Brothers, and then actually, funny enough, this Star Wars Episode 5: The Empire Strikes Back came out the same year as the Blues Brothers, which 1980.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, and yeah, her role, like the first time you meet her, she's just RPGs the front door and things like that. So, um,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
here's the thing, like, you mentioned RPG, like, the destruction that she just made, but I like how you mentioned that because there is so much destruction going on in this movie. Like, this is not CGI. This is, like, you're seeing the real deal in
yeah,
this movie.
yeah, and there's the build like later on the same type of thing. She's with the car under the L, and then she blows up the entire building. And another funny part about the movie is just the humor. I think the humor just matches what I think's like funny and stuff like that. And the cops are about to go arrest, Jake and Elwood inside their apartment,
Yeah.
and the whole entire building blows up. And then, they're laying down, they get out the bricks. Jake and Elwood was like, "It's 9 a.m. We're late." And so they act like nothing happened.
Oh, man. I'll tell you this right now. I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'm gonna tell you this right now. They would not survive that. But given the fact that this was filmed, knowing the fact that I'm pretty sure everything was like props and all
Yeah,
probably fake material that they probably used out there, like they gotta add in the sound effects. Like you can
yeah,
definitely
no,
tell this is all props and made up for the movie, and then the sound effects. That is some very good use because in real life that they would be dead. They would be dead.
oh yeah, there's multiple moments where you're like, well, if this was real life, well, that's movies though, right, Mark? I mean,
Right.
it's all about making it for comedy or for the action and everything. But also, we're talking about the destruction, and I was looking. The movie went over $10 million over budget, and
Yeah.
for 1980, that's a lot of money. That's even more. 10 million's a lot right now, but that's even more back then. So
Right.
there's so much destruction between blowing up the buildings and then like cop cars crashing everywhere, the
Mhm.
Bluesmobile crashing into places like that. So even
Yeah.
the whole entire scene of going at the mall that's in, I forget what exact town, but it's not too far from us here.
Yeah.
The,
I forgot what I forgot what it was, but I actually would definitely get into that. But I will say this, like the budget was like $27.5 million. That's the final budget.
yeah,
And I'm gonna tell you this right now. This will not cost $27.5 million today. In
no,
fact, I read some. In fact, on Wikipedia, I looked into like the production segment. I scrolled down, and the budget was 27.5 million. But according to 2022, it would be $98 million in 2022.
yeah.
Big difference. Like I,
Mhm.
I, I was predicting at least 100 million, and I was like $2 million off.
Dang, there you go. I just found it was the mall they destroyed was in Harvey, Illinois, so not too far, you know.
Yeah, not too
Those,
far, not too far from here. In fact, like each town in this movie, it feels like it's not too far from where we are. Most
yeah,
notably, Chicago, Harvey, and Joliet.
yeah, the prison, and it's cool. I got to visit the prison that was filmed in, and like multiple other films and shows have been filmed in. I went to Illinois State, and there's like this group from Illinois State who's trying to like revive that prison down in Joliet and make it like kind of open for the public in a way.
Yeah,
So
like a
we
museum.
went, yeah, kind of, yeah. So we went there last summer, and it was just cool to walk through like where the film was, and they talked to us about the movie and where they filmed like the jailhouse rock scene. It wasn't actually in the jailhouse; it was in the jail property, but it was in their gymnasium, not in the cafeteria. Um, that's
It's
not really
funny.
known. So that's a fun fact that's not
Yeah,
really known. Um,
yeah. It's actually
but
funny
yeah, it
that
was
you
just
said
cool.
that too, because um, uh, the Home Alone movie. I don't know if you've seen the have you seen the first Home Alone movie?
Yeah, yeah.
You know there's another fun fact too. Like the interior of the house was filmed at New Trier High School.
Oh, the interior of the house. Yeah,
Interior, all like the inside part of the house.
yeah.
It's
Huh.
all filmed at it's like the interior of the house is filmed at New Trier High School, and that's another. I thought this would be another fun
Yeah,
fact too.
yeah.
I
And
didn't think that. I mean, going back to Blues Brothers, I didn't think the jailhouse rock scene would be in a gymnasium because it looks like because on the inside it definitely looks like it's basically the how do I say this like the lunchroom. It's basically the lunchroom
yeah,
sequence.
yeah. It pretty much is. It's like it's still on the like jail campus too and everything like that. So they didn't
Yeah,
like go anywhere else, which like you would maybe think they would, but no, they did it right
yeah.
there. So yeah.
Right. So
And
anyway,
also,
going to like to the production of the movie, like going back backtracking a little bit. I mentioned Dan Aykroyd was obviously Dan Aykroyd was Elwood Blues, but he also co-wrote the script with director John Landis for this movie. The script was like incomplete, so I don't know like the entire outcome of the whole of how they put this movie together, but I will say this: the movie speaks for itself.
yeah, it really does. And I'm pretty sure didn't Aykroyd he wrote up a script and it was just really, really long compared to normal scripts. And that was the first time he ever written a script. And
Yeah,
so, it is kind of funny to see how the movie turned out. And like that kind of seems to be like Dan Aykroyd, the type of person he is and the type of humor he kind of is in the music he also loves and things
yeah,
like that. He wanted the musicians, I know he really wanted to have these, big time celebrities, which I think after the fact it might have had some negative things in terms of money or whatever. Not
yeah.
exactly sure, but
Because
he,
the film went over budget too. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you already mentioned. I mean, obviously, I think I believe you and I already covered that. You said it was
yeah,
like $10 million over budget.
yeah, we did. Yep, we covered that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean, it is amazing too because like the overall execution of this is particularly from Universal because Universal uh got the rights to this film after like
yeah,
during a bidding war, and this was like after Animal House.
yeah. Um, then the Animal House, Belushi coming into the Blues Brothers. I think it was a good transition for him. It was like kind of a similar type of movie with Animal House
Hmm.
and the Blues Brothers, but it seems I don't know, he enjoyed working with Dan Aykroyd really a lot. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
another
it's
another
pretty
big
good.
cameo.
What'd you
What's
say?
that?
Wait, what'd you say?
I was gonna ask about another big funny cameo at the end of the movie. Did you who's in the tax office?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, which is so funny. It's another like time we are like, wait, who's that?
That
You
is
gotta like
Steven
pause it.
Spielberg. Like Steven Spielberg played the Cook County clerk at the top of the building. Is at the top of that. But it's not the Willis Tower or Sears Tower. Is a different. I believe it's a different. It's a different.
Yeah, it's like the courthouse. It's the courthouse, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's funny too because like Steven Spielberg was also coming off of some pretty big movies too.
Hmm.
Like he came off of Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I believe during that time he was working on the first Indiana Jones movie and the E.T. movie as well.
Yeah, so it's like I wonder how, and why he became a part of this movie. Do you know that, or is it just kind of unknown?
Well, I read that John Landis and Steven Spielberg they were actually buddies at the time, and and during their time, like back in the 70s and the early 80s, Landis and Spielberg cameoed in each other's films, and from what I read, John Landis made a cameo appearance in one of Spielberg's movies. I forgot what the movie was. I think it was a movie. I forgot what the movie was, but it
Yeah.
also had John Belushi in it as well. Um,
Hmm.
I think it was 1941. I think.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it probably was. Yeah, it was 1940. Yeah, 1941.
Yeah.
And
You were right. You
Landis.
knew it.
What?
You knew it. You were right.
Yeah, Landis and Landis. I'm pretty sure it was Landis who made a cameo appearance in that movie, because John Belushi was in that movie. I'm actually surprised he was in. I was actually surprised he was in that movie.
Yeah. um, should we kind of go to, let's see, talk about,
And actually, just to cut this part short between Spielberg and Landis, they actually cut ties with each other in 1982 when Twilight Zone the movie came in after the whole helicopter accident happened.
oh, I didn't know that. So they never really talked after.
No, they actually cut ties after that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Landis was involved with a segment that Landis did a segment that involved a helicopter that actually had a helicopter accident that happened on set.
Yeah. Cool. So
But
should we talk about, I feel like we should talk about the type of enemies there are in this movie,
yes,
how many different type of enemies there are in this movie. And starting off, of course, it's like the police. And
right.
then
You
you
got
kind
the
of,
police.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's the entire the state. You got the entire police, the police force, and I'm pretty sure the state troopers as well.
yeah, state troopers, you got the army, you got the National Guard at the
National
end.
Guard. You also
Then,
have this cowboy band group, the Good Old
yeah,
Boys.
the good old boys and Bob from Country,
You're the good old
Bob,
boys.
Bob's Country Bunker. You got Bob too. He's another guy. And then you
Yeah.
also have the Illinois Nazi Party, who's
Oh
also
my
going
goodness,
after him.
yes. And Henry Gibson played the main
Yeah,
the leader of the Illinois Nazis in that movie.
it's so weird because he voices Wilbur and Charlotte's Web. So it's like
Yes,
he's
yes.
Wilbur, but then he's a Nazi. It's like what? a
What?
little bit of little difference there.
Hmm.
So
I mean,
yeah, and then
character wise, I mean,
yeah,
like character wise in the movies.
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
crazy difference. And
yeah,
then
it's a
you
crazy
also
difference too. And I know they don't appear. I know the Illinois Nazis, like, they only appeared for at least a few scenes. I mean, but
mhm.
they really wanted to track down the car that Juliet, Jake, and Elwood Blues were driving in, because they were about to be ran over.
Yeah, they're going on the bridge, and I saw that scene was actually filmed for some reason in Milwaukee. That scene was so over the bridge. Just I guess they really wanted that bridge for some reason. So
Yeah,
random little fact, but yeah, and then everyone else is just very happy they got kicked out the bridge and because they were blocking up the road.
yeah,
So, but then they get back to Chicago. They're like, "We're gonna get this guy. We're gonna kill him." And then they get the Bluesmobile and just easily outmaneuver him and
yeah.
things like that. I also saw they had multiple Bluesmobiles, purchased or cars that look like it for this movie too.
Yeah, and this
Mount
car,
Prospect,
the car that
top
they
car.
had was a 1974 Dodge. It was a 1974 Dodge sedan. It was a black and white car that actually looks like basically the police car from Mount Prospect. And I'm gonna be honest with you, who really sells police cars in Mount Prospect? I mean,
I don't know. We would have to ask them, but I know it used to be pretty common where police stations would just sell their old vehicles. That's why you always see people driving the old cop cars
mhm.
around and stuff like that. So that's probably why.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a question, like, because I'm trying to figure out why would the city of Mount Prospect sell a 1974 Dodge, Dodge. I think it was a Sudan, but I'm pretty sure it's a Monaco as well. But
Yeah. Okay.
because that's obviously is a police car, and I'm just wondering why would they sell that. But I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's. I mean, I guess it's probably a thing.
Yeah. And then I'm reading up on this right here. It used 13 different cars bought from the California Highway Patrol to replicate the 1974 Mount Prospect car.
I mean, I've not been up to Mount Prospect, but it's not too far from where we are, is it?
No, no, yeah, it's not too far at all. I think it's a little more closer to Chicago. Let me
Yeah.
pull it up on my maps real quick. But yeah, that's us like we've been talking about. Like the cool part about this move here, us here in Naperville, it's like it's just close by. So
Exactly. Same with Joliet as well. Like Joliet, like Joliet, I live near the Bolingbrook border, and like if you and Bolingbrook does crawl into Joliet too, because if you
yeah,
like take like you could definitely take different roads south to Joliet.
hmm yeah. Mount Prospect's a little north from around Naperville. It's probably what, like an hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
Sounds about right.
So yeah, sounds about right.
Right. Oh, I want to go back to Joliet for a sec because the film's opening. I will say this: the film's opening
hmm
probably one of the best introductions that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I love how quiet it is. I love the refinery stacks, of Joliet
Hmm.
shining down and things like that. I went to Illinois State, so I'd always drive down I-55 and see all those refinery stacks, and I always think of the Blues Brothers
Yeah,
movie. And it's all quiet for like 3 minutes, and then he goes to walk up to the gate, and he gets his stuff and he's out, and he's like, "What the hell is
yeah.
this Bluesmobile? What happened
He
to the
gets his
Cadillac?"
stuff from. He has to he has to like get his stuff, but also like sign a. I think it's like a contract or a waiver or something.
hmm
And actually, there's another cameo. There's another cameo in this movie, also Star Wars related.
Yeah,
Like Carrie Fisher, Frank Oz, who voiced Yoda in the original Star Wars trilogy, including the prequel movies as well. He makes a cameo appearance as the guy as one of the officers at the front desk in
yeah,
the opening
that's
scene.
cool. And he had some funny lines too.
Hmm.
Yeah, going through Jake's stuff and things like that. And another time when I was at the Joliet prison, it was just cool to see, like all the what the prison looked like when it was up and running a little bit and things like
Yeah,
that. And so yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
I mean, and then after that moment, like especially when Elwood shows up, because actually, if you look closely, like you see like the drawings or tattoo, or I don't know if it's a
yeah,
tattoo or the writings on their knuckles that says Elwood and Jake.
Jake. Yeah, you can see it on their knuckles. Yeah, and then when Jake comes out of the prison, it's like behind him. There's like this shining light that's kind of like signaling that he's finally, free. And I think that's when what this whole movie's about. It's like he's on a mission from God, right? That's what he
Yes,
says the whole
that's the
time.
whole theme in this movie. We're on a
Yeah,
mission for God.
so I think that's when his mission starts. Is like you got this bright light shining behind him as he's leaving the gates of the prison,
Hmm.
and he starts his mission to go find his peace and redeem himself for why he was maybe in prison for the first
Yeah,
time. So yeah,
I mean, I completely forgot why he was in prison in the first place, but I did hear that I think it was from one of the band members mentioned. I think Elwood mentioned that Jake was standing up for the band for
yeah,
what reason? For what reason? It was probably money issues or something. I completely forgot. But
yeah. Money. That sounds about right because yeah, he did. Elwood did say that Jake, because the band members are like, why would we get back together when you owe us money? And then Elwood's like, oh, well, he's the one who got you guys out of this, didn't get you in jail. And that's why he was in jail. So, yeah,
yeah,
like you said,
and
I don't think they exactly say what he did,
mhm,
to be honest, in
yeah,
the, oh, so,
but I do like how like most of the band members really like Jake,
mhm.
and the fact that Elwood doesn't keep in touch with them really shows that Jake really cares for the band, while Elwood, I would say Elwood cares for Jake, but he doesn't really care much about the band when Jake was in prison.
Yeah, like that was Jake's, like only hope. They talk about it in the car, Elwood's like, I wasn't lying, I'm just BSing you. And that's like kind of true because you, Elwood needed him, needed to not tell Jake that the band was, not there anymore,
Yeah.
because then Jake would have no motivation or things like that. But
Yeah,
then,
exactly. I mean, it's sad too, like especially for Jake. Like Jake got through was locked up for a long time, not
yeah,
knowing that his band that he and Elwood put together were gonna separate from each other,
hmm,
and not write to him as well.
yeah, I know. And then kind of how they go to find the band too, and everything like that. So I guess they leave the prison, right? And then they go to see the penguin,
The
the
penguin or
nun,
the nun,
the
well, it's the
nun.
nun, but they call but Elwood calls her the penguin. According to the car conversation that they
Yeah,
had,
to the movie. That's
and
what they call
and
her.
Jake was like, so I lied. You can't lie to a nun.
And then they keep swearing, and then the nun keeps
Yes,
smacking. That's another funny part. That's a total like 1980 like humor scene right there.
yes.
They keep
Because
saying stuff.
Jake and Elwood go upstairs, and I like the whole setting behind it. Like they walk inside, and it's pretty eerie too. It's very eerie as well because, well, I guess you could say from the perspective of Jake, like he hasn't been in he hasn't been inside, like he hasn't seen the penguin for a very long time. So you're probably wondering, oh no, like
Yeah.
believe me, like like it's kind of like it's like you're trying to like get back into like the faith, like whether like Catholic faith or Christian faith. It's like
Hmm.
it's been a long time since you stepped away from that. How, like, what reaction are you gonna get?
Yeah, I think he didn't want to go in there at all. It's like you said, he lied that he didn't want to go, but that all kind of leads to what the movie's been all about, like the
Hmm.
mission on God. And so
Yeah, and I
they
like
hear about
how
that.
and I also like how like when they both went up there to see the penguin, who's being played by Kathleen Freeman. Like at first, like she's happy to see the two again,
Hmm.
and of course, and announce and tells them that the orphanage is going to be shut down. It's going to be sold. It's going to be sold, and she's going to be going to like different locations. And in fact, I believe in the I watched the director's cut of this. She was talking about like the different locations that she was going to be talking about. Um, one of them was Africa. The other one, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, what she said Latin, I think it was Latin America, and then Korea. I think it was North or South Korea. I can't remember. I remember her saying like the different locations,
Yeah, yeah, and
and the price for to get the money for the orphanage was $5,000. And when Jake hears $5,000, he was like, "Great, $5,000. We'll get that for you in the morning. Come on, Elwood."
yeah. He's like, no, that's easy. And then she's like, no, 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 I don't want your dirty money. That's exactly what she says. And it's like,
Yeah,
well,
I
yeah,
mean,
she's a
yeah,
nun. She's not going to
exactly.
want that.
Jake and Elwood cannot steal the money. That's like one of the commandments. Thou shalt not steal.
Yep, exactly. And then they
And
go downstairs. They get thrown down
because
the stairs in the chair.
Jake was like, "Well, I guess you're up the creek then."
Yeah. Yeah, and then she does the little thing where like she just like drags back, where it looks like she's, like, I don't even know how do you describe it.
I think I could definitely, I got a feeling they probably used the dolly and some string, but
Yeah,
it's
pull it.
hidden very well throughout this movie
Yeah,
for all the
yeah,
door slamming for all the door slamming shots in this in the
hmm,
orphanage, including the penguin herself. And
yeah,
even before that, she says, "Don't come back until you redeem yourselves."
yeah, definitely. And then they go downstairs, to see like, it's Cab Calloway,
Hmm.
who's like the kind of like father figure janitor type guy who's been there, his whole life and things like that.
Yeah.
And that was good for them to reconnect. That's probably who, both Jake and Elwood. That's like who they've looked up to probably the most their entire life. So being
Yeah.
growing up in an orphanage and stuff like that.
Yeah, because they all grow up in They all grew up in the orphanage. They all had a drink, and then Cab Calloway mentioned Cab. Oh, what was his? He had a name in this movie. There was he his name. He had a name in that movie.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Um.
his name, like
Curtis.
Curtis. There you go, Curtis. Like Curtis, like mentioned, like yep, like the orphanage is gonna be sold. I'm gonna be out on the street.
Yep. And like when they heard that too, especially like, well, can't be doing that to like our father figure Curtis.
Yeah, can't
Yeah.
can't it can't do that to can't do that to Cab Calloway. I mean,
No.
but I'm actually glad that I'm actually glad that he got a few more scenes too, where especially especially his musical number, because he had
Oh
a
yeah.
musical number that's a real life musical number that Cab Calloway also wrote too, um
Hmm.
but I'll get to that in a moment. But um Jake and Elwood, they're trying to redeem themselves. They go to church. I
Oh
think
yeah.
this is a church in I know it's somewhere in Chicago, but inside the church, the pastor, well, actually, the pastor in that church is James Brown.
Another big artist or musician, the Reverend Clevis or
Yes,
Clevis, something like that.
yeah, the Reverend, yeah,
Yeah. And they
and
sing the score of Old Landmark. I don't know, something like that
I
for the
probably
song they do. But it gets them all hyped up, and that's where we see, where the everything that's come down to it, like the mission on God, he sees the
yeah,
light.
the light shines down on Jake, and it's over the top, but it's so good too. Because
Yeah,
this is also added to music from because Elmer Bernstein also did the music for when the light was shining on Jake, and that was a pretty
yeah,
an exciting moment. Well, actually, even before that, Jake tells Jake doesn't even want to go inside the church, but I was like, well, you got to make the path of redemption. You got to go to church. You got to make a path of redemption. You got to go to church. Oh my
all
goodness.
right, all right. And then Elwood's like, "What's going on out there?" Or not that. He's like, what's happening?" He's like, "I see the light." He's like, "The band."
The
And he's like,
band.
"The band?
Yes.
The band? The band!" And then they both finally see the light together, and they
Hmm.
both dance and start, going together, and everyone's all just having a great time, and
Yeah,
that's
everybody's having
why
a
I love
good
the
time.
movie. The music's so good. The music's awesome, and I don't like musicals. Like I really don't like. I love rock music, and blues,
Hmm.
country, or
Yeah, but
so
even this movie is a musical of itself. Like this
yeah,
is
it is.
this is like a musical. Like when you think of musicals, you think of like movie adaptations based on popular theater shows.
Yeah,
But this one, there was not even a theater show for that. This is based on a popular SNL sketch, and this
yeah,
was brought to life. Then this was
yeah.
brought to life with John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, John Landis, everybody involved in this movie. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is, and that scene's one of the awesome parts of it too. And
Yeah.
the artists, musicians coming in for it. So
Hmm.
yeah,
But so yeah, after their so basically after church, they all the two drive off into the sunset, and obviously I've already mentioned that Jake and Elwood already talked about like the band being split up, but this leads up to this leads up to the two being pulled over by the police.
yeah. And that pulls over. And the funny part about this movie and like connecting it with my life is like he takes his license. He's like, "Oh, we'll be good. He won't. They don't know anything." He's like, "Nah, they got scamods."
Yep.
And like scamods, it's like how you could run your a license through a system now in the '80s or early late '70s. That was new, where
Hmm.
you could see someone has some license suspended. And so whenever I'm with my mom now, like driving, we see a cop car. It's like, "Oh, there's the scamods," even though it's like that doesn't have anything really to do with it. Where I was like, "Oh, there are the
Yeah.
scamods."
Well, technically, Elwood calls them rollers, like the
Yeah,
police.
rollers. It's like
Rollers or
rollers.
the fuzz. Like
Yeah.
there's the fuzz too. Like you hear different slangs
Hmm.
from the two. This is like this is from way back. Like you do how to describe like how to describe a person, place, thing, or an object. Like
Yeah.
or like the police, rollers, or the fuzz, the joint, which is another name to call,
Yeah.
which is a slang for prison. that
Yeah, it's like
Jake even threw out. But the reason why they're being chased was not because of the light, not just because of the license, but also because the light was yellow.
in the way like how many parking tickets and violations he has too, and so it is kind of funny the way he finally does get caught because he's had like 50 plus violations of parking and like other traffic violations and things
Yeah.
like that. But the light was definitely yellow, like you said, Mark. So it's like I don't. If I was watching it, if I was a cop, I don't know if I'm even pulling him over for that one. So
Yeah. I mean, I
that's when
think
we find our first like villain, not villain, our first like enemy for the Blues
yes.
Brothers. Yeah. Besides
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher, maybe.
Yeah, I think Carrie Fisher. I mean, Carrie Fisher is a good addition too, as well.
Yeah.
But even like when Elwood was Elwood's license being taken away, like he floors it, man. Like he floors it. He drives away from the cops, which is a big red flag, by the way. Big red flag, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, that's different. Like in the 80s, maybe they'd chase them, but like nowadays, you never see cops really chase people anymore either. And so it leads them through this entire chase through a mall in,
Yeah,
Harvey, Illinois, that destroys. It seems like in that mall, like the Blues Brothers and the cops are just like trying to destroy as many stores as
yeah,
they possibly can, just because why not? And like, let's just spend more money on our movie.
yeah. First you lied to me about the band. Then you traded the Bluesmobile for a microphone, and now you're gonna put me right back in the joint.
Yeah, that's a great line. So many great lines in the movie.
Yeah,
Put me
I
right
completely
back in
forgot
there.
that Elwood traded the original Bluesmobile for a microphone.
Is it the big microphone on top of their car, or is it a different microphone?
I think it's a different. Oh, actually, I
See, that's another part that I thought about when I watched the movie recently. I was like, is it that big microphone, or is it just a like a music microphone? They never say, so it's like
no, they never
it makes
say.
me think that maybe that moment in beginning of the movie is like foreshadowing that, like, oh, this microphone helps them promote, the final scene in the movie or final music scene.
Yeah,
So, but yeah,
and
yeah, that is funny. They trade away
yeah,
their love car for a microphone.
I like how Jake was like, okay, I can see that. But even then, during that whole chase, it's just like you gotta appreciate the stunt coordination in this. You gotta appreciate the stunt
Yeah.
coordination. It doesn't get it doesn't get enough credit nowadays, but it should. But it really should.
Yeah, so many different cars, destroyed and things like that. And they're really dedicated with how many cop cars they are following, them not only in that chase, but the final chase too as well. So
The final
yeah, the
chase.
stunts in
Yeah.
this and yeah, the stunts are pretty crazy and
Hmm.
just make sure they got them all right and they did
Hmm.
because there's really not a lot of special effects.
Yeah, I mean, especially for a film that came out in 1980. Although special effects they were there at the time, but I believe CGI was starting to become a thing around that period too. Like it was
Yeah.
starting to like build upon itself as well. But
Okay.
um, but even after the chase, like Elwood and Jake, they go to this apartment where obviously gets destroyed by Carrie Fisher because Carrie Fisher is like second enemy to come in to
Yeah.
the fold, and then I like how you mentioned that Elwood changed his address, right?
Yeah, yeah. Change it to Wrigley Field. That's one of my
Yes,
favorite
I
parts.
literally yeah, it was
That's
like 10. It was like West Addison
1060 West Addison.
at
And then
Wrigley
it doesn't
Field.
only get the cops, but it gets the Illinois Nazi Party too as well in the movie. So it fools two different enemies for Elwood. So proper thinking out of him for
Yeah,
that one.
and then
Yeah,
obviously Jake's enemy was obviously his ex fiance, but technically Jake was his own enemy too.
yeah, yeah. Like he kind of did that to himself, and then he got himself in jail in a way, and yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But even Elwood left his own job. Like he had to leave his own job just to like help get the band back together. I mean, but he lied to his boss saying I'm going to become a priest. And I
Yeah.
can't believe he bought that. He bought that too.
Yeah. And the way they, after kind of go to get the band back together and the way they, it's some are easier to convince than others, especially in the way that each one's done in humor wise. and the different type of people inside the band as well, like the different class of people and
Mhm.
styles of people too. So
Yeah. And yeah, it's also nice to see the band too. Like you got Donald Duck, like Donald Duck Dunn is was one of the band members. You got, I believe,
Mhm.
Lou Marini too.
Yeah, they're all original. They're all their names, in the movie. They're their original names. They're not like the crazy well-known musicians like the Cab Callaways and the Ray Charles in the movies, Aretha
Right.
Franklin. But yeah, they're well-known, musicians and players, drum players, guitar players, excuse me, and
Yeah,
stuff like
guitar
that.
players, and then some of the jazz musicians too. Um, you got Matt Guitar Murphy,
Mhm.
Mr. Fabulous Alan Rubin. You got Willie Too Big Hall, Tom Bones Malone, Donald Duck Dunn, Murphy Dunn, Steve the Colonel Cropper, and then there's
Yeah,
probably a couple of other members too. But those are like some of the names.
yeah. And my favorite one is well, let's kind of go in order. Who's the first person they get? They go to see the
It was I think it was
Magnetones.
Lou Marini.
Marv and the Magnetones.
What?
Marv, they go see Marv and the Magnetones, right? They see
Yeah.
that band group, so they go pick them up all together. They're in their silky, outfits, and Jake's like, "What the hell are you guys doing out here with your silky outfits on?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
And of course, I mean, obviously, Elwood said, "Well, Jake's on parole. He just got out of Joliet."
yeah. He's like, "Why should we join back the band? He still owes." That's what we were just talking about. He still owes money, and then it's like, "Well, he's the one who didn't get you guys in jail either." So they
Yeah.
were able to get him, or that group of guys with the Marv and the Magnetones, but then they're like, "Well, no way, you're gonna get Mr. Fabulous and I think Murph, yeah, Matt
Murph.
Guitar
Yeah.
Murphy as well."
Yeah.
So they go,
Because they got Mr. Fabulous from from that very fancy restaurant.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that restaurant's still there, and that's in like downtown Chicago. And I think it's the
yeah,
same restaurant where Ferris Bueller went to in that movie as well.
yeah. I feel like it is because I mean they look very similar, from the outside and inside, and both scenes, kind of stick in your head from like funny little comedy scenes from
Hmm.
Chicago areas.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
It's
And
like
the way
I feel like Blues Brothers and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like those are like a couple of examples of like love letter to Chicago.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And so
And
they finally are able to get Mr. Fabulous and everything like that. But they got to get the last person, and it's always the hardest to convince the husband with the wife,
yes,
and
yes,
things
and
like that. They own,
that's in like how do I say that? How am I going to describe it? Like this is like where John Lee Hooker was at, because this is the area where John Lee Hooker was singing too in
mhm,
this movie.
yeah, yeah, the bow, 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 bow. That one, right?
That one, yes,
Yeah, yeah,
that was a
yeah.
good
Bow,
moment
bow,
too.
bow. Yeah. Yeah, that's another person who doesn't get much time in the movie or
Hmm.
as much, but he gets that one song and it's a nice little transition of scenes, right? Going
Hmm.
into a new different neighborhood, different uh type of people and stuff like that there. And so they go inside and they order their usual, right? They get Jake. No, first you do Elwood. He's like, I'll take some toast. He's like, all right, you want some jam or butter with that, honey? He's like, no, dry. They
Right, and then
go to yeah. What do you say?
Jake was like, four fried chicken, please, and a Coke.
And then she's like, would you like that legs or wings?
Four fried chicken, please.
Or fried chickens. And it's
And
funny when they go in there.
actually, what's
To
amazing too, like this is Aretha Franklin that the two are talking to.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't, do you know, was she ever like an actor really? Do you know Aretha Franklin?
She's a popular singer too.
Oh yeah, she's really, really popular singer. So I know
And
that for sure.
I think she also she had I think she I believe she was an actor too. Like she's an actor too. I believe she's an actor too. Like I mean, this is the only film that I know that she's in. I
Yeah,
mean, at least from my point of view. But
same here. Like I haven't seen really anything else with her. So it's just funny.
yeah,
And then they going back to like the movie. Um, when she goes to give it to Guitar Murphy, she's like, they want plain toast and 3 whole fried chickens. He's like, what are they came in here with their looking like the CIA. Yeah, she says the orders. He's like, oh, that's Jake
Oh, I know
Elwood.
these guys. They're the Blues
Yeah,
Brothers.
he was super excited to see him, and then Aretha Franklin tries to do everything she can to not have her husband leave and start singing "Think." You
You
better
better
think
think,
you're
think.
to me.
Yep.
I love that
Yeah,
song.
that's a good song too because
I'm
the
sure
most popular
you're
lyric
snapping.
the most popular lyric in that song is freedom, freedom,
Yeah.
freedom,
You hear that
freedom.
all the time in
Yep.
like commercials. You hear that movies and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm sure when you were watching it, were you snapping your thumb? I was snapping a little bit.
I wasn't snapping. I wasn't snapping, but I was just listen. I was just listening. I was just
Yeah, having good time,
letting the
right?
music play.
Yeah.
And actually, what's also funny too is that Murphy wasn't the only band member inside that restaurant, but it was also the saxophone player too.
Yeah. And then he was like trying to be a nice guy because he stayed in there when Murphy left with the Blues Brothers, and he was like, Aretha's like, "Come on, go on, like, don't you be here? Go on with them. I know you want to go," which was nice
Yeah,
of her.
and
So
then
that was nice of
yeah, and then the band's
Aretha.
back together. All the
Yeah,
band is back together, and they decided to like go in for a bite. Jake's trying to make a phone call, but unfortunately that phone call was cut short because Carrie Fisher came back with a flamethrower.
yeah. Princess Leia coming out of nowhere, pretty much as close as you can to a lightsaber, a flamethrower, probably.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, I mean that is probably the best description to say. Like you have Princess Leia coming in with a flamethrower and just like burns that oxygen tank, which sends Joliet Jake and Elwood Blues flying up in the air, and they come back down, break the phone booth, and they got about probably about $7
Yeah,
worth of coins out of that phone.
yeah. And it's crazy how they survive. But the funny thing is, like all this stuff that happens, they have no idea who's doing this stuff to them. Like they're acting like nothing even happened. Like that they just got their, phone booths blown up, and they had no idea what even happens. When they got their apartment blown up, they're like, oh, that's normal. That's just like a typical day for the Blues Brothers, right?
Yeah,
It's another interesting part. I was like, they never like think about, they just got like blown up like 3 times already.
I mean it's just a regular Tuesday for them.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, here's more money for us, so we could go get a little bite to eat. Nice little $7 and change. That's
Yep.
it."
And then this also leads up to a scene where the Illinois Nazis, one of the second in commands, was talking to uh, the leader that Henry Gibson played to tell him that we got the license plate number. It's been going around everywhere. This car belonged to Elwood Blues,
Yeah,
and and he's Catholic.
yeah, yeah. They're like, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna get him. We're gonna get
Oh
him." And
yeah, yeah. They were gonna get him, and they all
yeah,
met up at Wrigley Field, which is very which is very funny because at one point when I was first time watching it, I was like, "What's with that address? What's with the address? Is does he have another house over there?" But when we got to the scene of Wrigley Field, I was like, "No,
uh,
that's Wrigley Field. How can he
it's
live inside Wrigley Field?"
like, "Yeah, maybe you could." Not. He got him again, just like how he got the cops too before.
Yeah, is Elwood the goat or something?
I think he is. I
I
think
mean,
Elwood.
get it?
Thinking
Because
Elwood.
you know how Chicago and the goat, you know the whole story, Chicago Cubs and the goats curse
Yeah.
that
Oh yeah, the
happened.
Billy Goat Coast. Oh yeah, I'm a Cubs fan myself, Mark.
Hmm.
But that curse is no longer. And the Billy Goat Tavern, the best burger you can get in town in Chicago. One of
Cheeseburger,
them.
cheeseburger, 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 two chairs, one
Yeah.
Pepsi. Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, two chairs, one Pepsi.
Yeah.
Another popular sketch right there.
Yeah, that is.
But actually, I think actually the sketch is a little different. The name is a little different, but I get the reference.
Yeah, yeah. Sam.
But we also get to see Bob's Country Bunker.
Yeah, that's when they were like they're kind of they say they're like 3 hours of driving, and then they get there,
Hmm.
and this is definitely just Jake trying to find a place that they could possibly just crash and maybe get a gig from. And so they get there like, well, the what is it, the Country Boys? What's the
Good old
exact name?
boys.
The Good Old Boys. Yeah, they're like, well, we'll be the Good Old Blues Brothers Boys Band.
And
And then so they
they
start
were,
they start playing, the owner Bob loves them or whatever, or not loves them right away, but like when they get there, they're like, oh yeah, well,
yeah,
great, great. So they start
because
playing
of
their
the
normal
chicken
blues
wire. Because
brothers.
there's like this chicken wire. Because you get the chicken wire covering up the entire stage, and
Yeah. Which is normal. Like I think the people like for that scene, like throwing stuff at him is like usually good, and it can be bad though, but like you
yeah,
see it.
yeah. I mean, I see it. And when they started to play like their own song,
Yeah.
they all the customers are like, "What is this? What is this crap? Turn it off! Where's this?
Start
Where's our
throwing
little
stuff.
country type song?
Yep.
Whoa!" They all throw they all throw
Yeah.
everything in there.
Mhm.
They all throw everything at the stage, and the guy's like, "Well, that's not country music." Turns off the lights, and the entire band was like, I don't think they didn't turn off I don't think they blew a fuse. They're mad. We need to come up with a plan. Okay, we need to come up with a plan and fast. Like we gotta get these guys to like us. Oh wait, remember the song Rawhide? Yeah, I remember that one. Let's do it in a in an A key.
Yeah. Right 'em up. Let 'em up.
Rolling,
Oh,
rolling,
oh.
rolling.
Yeah, it. I love that song. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's actually from the TV show too.
Yeah, yeah. The Blues Brothers do a good job singing it, and with Jake with the whip and thing going, yeah, rawhide. And then also, I
Rawhide.
just love their version of "Stand by Your Man," and the whole crowd is, just they finally get into it, and the whole crowd really liked what they did,
Yep.
at the Bob's Country Bunker.
And I don't know how long that show was because the good old boys showed up late for some reason.
Yeah, they showed up really late.
Yeah, they were late to the party.
Yeah. And so like during that too, the Blues Brothers, they got, like, all right, what's our money? It's like, all right, you get paid 200, but you drank $300 worth of beer. And so that's where, where we start to see another enemy be introduced because the Blues Brothers try to get out of not paying, the $100 they owe Bob from the
Yeah,
owner. So,
I I mean, I don't know if that's an actual thing too, especially with most gigs especially with most music gigs. Like, if they actually drink, are they supposed to? I think they're supposed to pay their tab, or does the place pay the tab? I mean, I'm a
yeah.
musician myself. I mean, I haven't done any. I mean, aside from going to Europe, I actually took a trip to Europe with a huge group for
Nice.
Illinois ambassadors of music. But I mean, I remember paying some for some of the food for some of the food that I bought. But I don't know how it works. Doesn't usually like a manager or something, or does everybody in the group have to like pay the bill?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Probably everyone in the group would have to pay the bill, or well, in this case, no one at all knew they were going to be playing at Bob's Country Bunker. So it's like they had no idea if they were going to be paying or not. So
Yeah,
they're kind of screwed at that point. But you would think that someone in the band should have at least asked if they were getting, the beer for free or something like that,
yeah.
because yeah, you
Now,
can't just assume that
yeah.
you're getting free beer, right?
Right. Yeah. But it could go in a different way too, where if you're involved with a huge music group, like whether you're involved with a huge music group, like for me example, like I was an Illinois ambassador in music. I had to pay for I had to pay for the food too. I had to pay for the
Yeah.
food. I had to pay for my own food, like when I was with the group. I mean, I mean, it's pretty. I say it's a pretty normal standard where I think each member of the group has to like they had to like pitch in. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it takes. And you can see that they kind of do that, the Blues Brothers like band and everything like that, that
Yeah,
they're pitching it as kind of their time, I feel like, because all of them, they kind of all separated and started their own new jobs and stuff like that. So what they're all pushing in is just for, their one opportunity, and they finally get that opportunity
Yeah.
as right after they leave the Bob's Country Bunker, they kind of go to see the guy in the sauna, right? Is that correct? They go like kind of a
Um,
little bit after
the Blues
what's right
Brothers
after
go
the
to the
bunker?
sauna, and
Yeah.
they were being chased. They were also being chased by the good
Oh
old
yeah.
boys. Like the
Yeah,
good old boys showed up. It was like, wait a minute. Like the guy was like, wait a minute. You're the good old boys. Then who are those? Then who the hell are those guys?
they're like it's like the Spider-Man thing. They start pointing at each other. It's like Bob's pointing at the Blues Brothers, Blue Brothers pointing at the good old boys pointing at Bob. They're like, wait a minute, I was supposed to hear. But it's also like the good old boys, the real ones. You guys showed up. It seems like 4+ hours late. Like everyone's already left and gone, and the
Yeah,
bar's already closed up. So like, it's good for Bob that he had someone there, and so I mean, it could be like why does Bob so upset? But he also is getting gypped $100, which was a good
yeah.
amount of money back then.
I mean, hey. At least the Blues Brothers came in. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah. But even the good old boys, they got caught by the cops too. But I think they got released on bail too because they went
yeah,
after
they
because
did.
the good old boys went after the Blues Brothers at that famous hotel in I believe I forgot the location of where they're going.
Yeah, but then the cops come, and then the cops and the good old boys, right? They collide into one another.
Yeah, the cops. John Candy plays one of the main cop
Yeah,
leads too,
yeah,
and and then Juliet Jake and Elwood Blues. They wanted to like advertise their big concert throughout different counties of Illinois.
mhm,
They name dropped part of DuPage County, which is
yeah.
a very good shout out.
Shout out to us, and also shout out to Curtis, the father figure janitor guy, who tells all the orphan kids, is like, "This is it, guys. Got to go spread out the word."
Yep.
So he's another person who helps spread out the word and stuff like that.
But then the Blues Brothers used the big microphone, the
Yeah, so
megaphone.
that's what I was thinking. Like at the beginning of the movie when they pick up Jake, it's like, is that the microphone? Because I don't know. Like that's what I just think of. And that's a really big microphone, so it probably would have costed a lot of money, like enough
Yeah.
to like maybe get a different car. So who
And
knows? But
yeah.
yeah, that microphone came up clutch for him because they end up filling it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
And
another
I'm
funny
glad
part.
Yeah, and I'm glad that all the band members were able to get this location from the guy in the sauna.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and the kind of with the speaking on the microphone, I think it's funny where they like drive. They're like just driving on the beaches. They're driving like on sidewalks and stuff. They're like, tonight, Blues Brothers, and like everyone knows, like literally everyone. It seems like in the city of Chicago, or Illinois, like knows the Blues Brothers, like including every law enforcement agency and like every group possible that's like trying to find them and everything. So
Yeah,
that's
and
funny.
then including the good old boys too.
Oh yeah, including the good old boys. They haven't forgotten.
Yep. And then and then this
Yeah.
location, but while the Blues Brothers were driving, they ran out of gas in their car.
Yeah, so they had to start pushing the car, and they were kind of becoming a little bit late. And once, of course, they get to the gas station, Mark, what the gas station was out of gas. It's like they're always
Yeah.
on Thursdays. Like, come on. So that's like another dilemma they face. They have all these enemies, but then they're also everything's just going not their way, right?
Yeah, they're not going it's not going their way, and realizing that they just ran out of gas. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Well, we have no choice. We gotta wait a couple hours for the gas truck to come by. And
Yeah.
there was another cameo that even came in. Her name is Twiggy, which I'm pretty sure she's a pretty popular singer too at the time. Like
Okay.
that
Yeah.
Elwood talks to, like Elwood flirts with this flirts with her in the car.
Yeah. And she goes. Elwood tells her, "Is like we could go meet up at the motel at midnight." And so we're not going to talk about it yet, but like she goes there later, and Elwood wasn't there because he's too busy doing other things. So
Yeah.
Elwood had his chance to secure her, but it didn't work out. It didn't work well.
What is Elwood this? Oh man, Elwood has probably become the biggest stick in the mud now after flirting with
Oh
Twiggy.
yeah, yeah, he's him. He's him.
Yep, yep, yep. Um, I mean, yeah, I think Twiggy also had something going on too because I think Elwood brought up the show to her like, hey, I mean, I'm performing on a show. Would you be interested? And she was like, no, sorry, I got other plans tonight. But then the hotel, that what is it, Red Inn or something?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, I think she was going to on another date, and then Elwood's like, "If your thing doesn't work out later, meet me up later." And so she did, but didn't work out. But they finally
Wow,
were able to get.
Elwood.
Yeah,
Wow, Elwood. What a way to leave someone behind like that.
I know. I was like, "Come on, Elwood," but he kind of had no choice, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so after the gas station, right? They go. They're finally trying to get to
I think it's the
the big,
palace. It was like a popular hotel. I think I'm trying to remember the name.
yeah,
Um,
the motel or the hotel.
I what was it? It was probably Palace Hotel, Palace something, a
Yeah,
Palace Hotel ballroom,
yeah.
and this was in north of Chicago.
Okay. Yeah, like the big area, and there's cops surrounding the entire place. It's like a James Bond movie almost, where how the Blues Brothers have to sneak in and
Hmm.
see everyone in there. So the whole building's filled up. There's hundreds, thousands of people in there. The cops are in there,
Yeah,
and you know,
and everything, and obviously the good old boys showed up as well. Um, Cab actually, and before that, Cab Calloway, Curtis, and the rest of the
yeah,
band, the entire band was like, wait a minute, the Blues Brothers doing this show all because they want to raise money for this orphanage?
yeah. They're like, the Blues Brothers are doing that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And so Curtis is like, all right, well, we can't keep this crowd waiting. And he plays one of the best. I love just the whole scene here about this.
Yes, yes. This is
From
a
starting
song.
with
This is
Minnie the
his song,
Moocher.
Minnie the Moocha.
Yeah, Minnie the Moocher.
Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun, 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 dun. Bum,
it's
ba,
perfect.
ba, 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 ba. Well, Cab Calloway did this song too. Like this, he wrote this song as well.
Yeah. So it's another time where we see, that musician bring in their song into it, and
Hmm.
then the Blues Brothers, kind of have their own songs, as well. So it's
Yeah,
interesting, and just the way that the scene starts with the Blues Brothers in there too. That's one of my favorite parts.
yeah.
It's
And
like,
I like how I like how like even before the Blues Brothers went in, like uh Elwood actually, I don't know if he knows, I don't know if you catch this, but Elwood puts glue on the in the RV
oh yeah, oh
of the
yeah, when they're sneaking in,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, because before they even get down there, no, never mind, that was after. Okay, yeah, but yeah, he puts the glue on and everything, which is funny. So, but my favorite part, honestly, of the whole movie is when that ending scene when they're in the Palace Hotel ballroom. Is like, we're so glad to see so many of you lovely people here tonight, and we would especially like to thank you all the representatives of the Illinois law enforcement community that join us here in the Palace Hotel ballroom at this time. We sincerely hope that you enjoy the show, and please remember, people, no matter who you are and whatever you do to live, thrive, survive, there are still some things that make us all the same. You, me,
Everybody
me,
be somebody.
yeah. Like
Everybody
that line
be
is just awesome.
somebody. Oh, that is probably, I say that's the best scene in this movie.
Yeah, and just that line, like, um, no matter who you are and whatever you do to live, thrive, and survive, like there are still some things that do make us all the same, like everybody needs somebody, right? That
Yeah,
kind of
actually, that's a
is
good
true.
message. That is a very good
Yeah,
message. Very good
yeah,
message in that film. I mean, hey, I mean, we all need somebody. We all need somebody, no matter like who you are, what you're doing. Like we're all the
yeah,
same. We're all the same. I mean, we all need somebody. We all need somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And like them being the orphans and too, so they've always needed someone to kind of guide them and stuff like that. So I just love that part, you know.
Hmm. And I mean, everybody needs somebody. That's a good song. And then there was another song they played was "Sweet Home Chicago."
Yeah, oh yeah. That's a classic. Everyone in the world, no, not in the world, I should say, but like everyone around here knows that song.
Yep.
And yeah, and like everyone's enjoying it, the cops are enjoying it and things like that are like, all right, well, let's not arrest them. We're gonna let the Blues Brothers play their music. And
But they
so
found out about it. But they found out about it when the two left the stage, went backstage, and this record company guy, gave them $10,000 for to because they're going to sign a deal for a new song.
yeah, and that was awesome because that was their 5,000 that they got for the orphanage, and then the 1,400 was to Ray Charles. It was an IOU for that keyboard that they
Yeah,
got, and then the rest went to the band. So like that's a lot of money for the band,
a
and
lot of money for the band.
yeah,
And
so yeah,
this leads up to well, actually, even before the chase, this leads up to the final encounterment between the Blues Brothers and the mystery woman from
oh
Carrie
yeah,
Fisher.
yeah. They go down there, and does Elwood know about her at all? That's the part that I don't think has been known about the movie or talked
I don't
about. Like,
think so,
does
but
Elwood know that they were almost married? Doesn't really seem that clear either. So whatever to think
yeah,
about, but
but
that's
I
another crazy part.
yeah, but I do have to say this, but actually, I found out that Dan Aykroyd and Carrie Fisher, there were actually a couple as well during that time period as well.
Oh,
But
Dan Aykroyd would. So that's funny. That was
yeah,
the
Dan
opposite.
Aykroyd and Carrie Fisher,
Yeah,
they used to date. They dated each other a while back during like the
yeah,
prime of Saturday Night Live.
yeah.
Um,
I will tell you that Carrie Fisher has been, practicing her stormtrooper aim or is learning from stormtrooper aim because Carrie Fisher cannot hit the Blues Brothers at all with an RPG, with an M16, with a bomb. It doesn't matter. Carrie Fisher cannot get a hit. So just like stormtroopers in Star Wars, they can never get their shots on target.
oh damn, that is
It's true though, right? I mean, she like had a whole clip and when the Blues Brothers are trying to leave and she can't hit him once, and then that's where we see Jake do his magic, take off the glasses
hmm. And
for the
then
only
she
time.
bought it. She bought it.
Bought it, and then that's another just it always makes me laugh. Hilarious part of the
Yeah.
movie
And
where they
then
start cursing.
Dan Aykroyd's like, take it easy.
Yeah, we gotta go. Drops her. It's like, yeah, take it easy. Have a good day.
Wow, two sticks in the mud now. Julia, Jake, and Elwood Blues. They both left their ladies behind.
Yeah,
And then we get this another nice quote from we get
yeah,
this pretty popular quote from them. Okay, 200 and something about at least 100 or 200 something miles to Chicago, full tank of gas, pack of cigarettes, and we're wearing sunglasses.
yeah. It's 187 miles to Chicago. Full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit
Hmm.
it. Da-na.
Yep.
And
Yep,
then they start
this is
playing
where the
music.
famous. This is probably the. I mean, obviously the dance. Obviously the theater scene is obviously the best scene. But I think the
Yeah,
most popular sequence out of this movie has got to
yeah,
be the final chase.
yeah. Which is like also when I started watching is like if you think about it, just think about it from the timing wise. The shows at nighttime. It's probably at what like 8 p.m. or something, and they
Yeah,
leave. It's probably like let's say 10:30. And the whole chase is like crazy awesome, but like somehow the chase ends and it's already like midday the next day or like early morning. It's
yeah,
like I don't know if that chase is gonna be 7 hours, but let's not get into that part. That's kind of me
yeah,
just thinking
yeah.
that's
That's
stupid
yeah.
because the whole chase is awesome and how many cars it took in that chase, which
Yes,
is like hilarious. The whole entire world's going after the Blues Brothers and the state
yes.
troopers. Everyone's going at them.
Everyone's going after them. Even I feel, and of course the good old boys, their chase cut short because they landed in a river,
Because
and
Elwood did his little glue, like he said.
yeah, because the glue was on the I believe it was on the accelerator. I think.
Yeah. Like the tough way. They just go crashing right into a pond. And Bob's in there too with them.
And he was like, "Don't you say a word."
Yeah. And then so yeah, they keep driving and things. They get to Chicago with
Yeah,
all these
and
cars and all the cars, the lower whacker scene, and just how many crashes there are, and with
there's so many of them.
there's
In
like a
fact,
hundred.
I think this movie holds the record for the for I think this movie holds the record for the most
Yeah,
car crashes. Move over, Fast and Furious. This is
yeah.
a precursor of Fast and Furious.
Filmmakers purchased 60 police cars, each at about $400, and most were destroyed. 40 stunt drivers were in this movie too. And they kept a 24-hour body shop to repair cars. So like
Oh my goodness.
that goes back to beginning of what we talked, just the budget and things. But like that just shows how much preparation it took for this final scene and how crazy it really was.
That is that is the most craziest scene from this movie. Like you
Yeah,
watch this scene, you are not only amazed by this entire sequence, but you gotta be wondering how were they able to pull it off. Like there's no
yeah,
CGI. All you see is the real deal. This is
yeah.
this is all real cars. Sure, yes, Fast and Furious had real cars, but they had to use visual effects. But even before Fast and Furious, you got the Blues Brothers who had probably one of the most craziest car chases that you have ever seen put to screen.
Yeah, and like people probably wouldn't think that too of like, you just think of the Blues Brothers in a car chase. Like if you were someone that maybe hasn't seen the movie or seen it just like once, they're like, but yeah, like that a lot went into that. A lot really did, money wise, time wise, and making sure everything was perfect. So
Yeah, even
yeah,
the
and
Illinois
then
Nazis came into the fold.
yeah, that's when they get on the skamods, like the Nazis are coming, and then the country boys are there and Bob, and so you got
Bob,
everyone.
they already crashed in it. They crashed in it during the nighttime.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but I'm saying like this is the scene, the chase scene is where all of the enemies, come together. Like they come together, not come to they're kind of teaming up together, honestly. Even Carrie Fisher's girl at the beginning of the chase, she starts shooting with the police at the
Hmm.
Bluesmobile, and the police they don't say anything to her. They're like, yeah, like so yeah, yeah, and then
She
the
probably went back
one
to Han. She probably went back to Han Solo after that.
yeah, it's a Han Solo or like her nail salon shop. I know she had that in the movie.
Yeah,
But yeah, we're kind of coming to the close then. I mean, the
yeah.
chase going down Lower Whacker, and then they get
Hmm.
to the courthouse. They start driving through there and
And they,
things
they
like
had they
that.
had to go through 120 miles per hour. 120 miles per hour.
They had to go through.
No, that was the speed that Elwood was driving. 120
Oh
miles per
yeah, yeah,
hour, and
yeah.
that was
Through the
under the I want to say the subway. That was going under the subway. You probably noticed, like you see, those subway tracks that you see
yeah
in
the L.
Chicago. Like those
Yeah,
are the
the L.
subway tracks they're driving under.
Yeah, so that was crazy.
And then the
And
Illinois Nazis even met their fate as well when the leader and his second in command drove off an unfinished bridge, and they were like, holy crap! They
yeah,
flew way up in the
they
air.
were. I don't know how that scene happened because like I swear they kept going like higher and higher. They were like above like the Sears Tower. I was like, all right, that was kind of crazy, but that was funny.
The icing on the cake was the song that was being played was "Ride of the Valkyries" by Richard Wagner, and it's
Yeah.
a popular music composition
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that made the scene all that much more funny too.
Yeah, and the final nail in the coffin, no pun intended, was when the second in command tells the leader, "I've always loved you."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So that's another part though where another enemy's kind of taken care of for the Blues Brothers, but then we kind of see the National Guard, Army, and my favorite people, the
Oh
the
yes,
hut,
the SWAT team.
the SWAT team. That's my favorite. That's another part of the movie where
You
like
get the
whenever,
fire squad too. You get the
yeah,
fire squad too.
yeah, whenever I drive in the city, like with my family, and then we go past that building, it was like hut, hut. We all just look at each other. Hut, 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 hut.
Like everybody, all the enemies come together. Like it's the entire force. It's
Yeah,
the entire police force, the National Guard, the police
yeah.
squad,
The
the
Army,
SWAT team.
there's
The
tanks. Yeah,
yes,
there are tanks there, and like But all this just to get the last check to Steven Spielberg to make sure that these taxes can be paid for the orphanage. And they it's funny, they get there and everyone's looking at them because they got all this dirty stuff on. Blues Brothers barricade up the doors and they're like, where do we go for the whatever DuPage County or someone county
Cook
clerk to pay
County,
the
Cook
taxes?
County.
Cook County is like, all right, up there, up there. And
And
so they finally get in there.
everybody and all and then the police force said the same thing too. They asked the same thing too. They're like,
Yeah, they're
"Hey,
like,
where did you see those two guys carrying a briefcase or something?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, I sent them down there. Thank
yeah.
you."
And that's a funny part because everyone, the whole entire police force and firefighters, like, "Ah," they start just cheering because they all need to get this guy because their days have been ruined by the Blues Brothers. Even though the Blues Brothers, all they're trying to do is just save this orphanage.
But they caused damage of their own too.
Yeah, they did. They caused some damage, but they finally get up there, and of course, they get the payment received. They put it in, and right when they write the receipt, Mark, they get cuffed up
Handcuffed.
right away.
Yeah,
But I mean,
and everybody in the office was holding guns in front of the Blues Brothers. They were all pointing at them, including Spielberg, who's in the middle of the action. And it was like, do I get a cut here?
yeah, like what did I do? So I mean, that's when they finally accomplished their mission from God, and they got it done, and the orphanage got to keep on going. But
Yeah,
kind of Jake went right back to where he came from at the start of the movie, and that was in prison.
that was in prison,
Yeah.
Jailhouse Rock.
Jailhouse Rock came, and that's another great part of the movie. A great song that everyone enjoys, I think. So
Yeah, that was a good closure. That was a good closure, and the movie, and then obviously you get the cast, the names of the people who are involved in this movie. Obviously the cast, and
yeah.
of course the crew members as well. And
Oh yeah,
then
the crew members they start singing.
yeah,
The
they
whole
started
crew
singing
starts
too.
like dancing with the Jailhouse Rock.
And
That's
then
another part. Like they include everyone in the movie.
yeah, they
The
included
crew.
everybody in the movie, and then like the credits roll, and it's just everybody
Yeah,
be
exactly. And you
somebody.
start singing, right? It's really
Yeah, in
nice.
fact, like here's the thing: like normally for credits you just leave, but for a movie like The Blues Brothers, you just
Yeah.
watch the credits, listen to the song. It's like
It's a,
Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Like John Williams, because John Williams's music is literally played during the credits. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do during credits? Do you just leave, or do you just want to sit down and listen to the music?
yeah, yeah. I like to listen to the music and the credits and stuff like that. And you never know what you're gonna get in credits too, as well. So sometimes you can get a little feature sneak peek on the next possible show or movie they have coming
Mhm.
out. But also just like you said, music, like the Blues Brothers credits. I was just sitting there like this morning when I watched it again. I was just listening to music,
Mhm.
chilling out, vibing out to it. So yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, yeah,
But with Blues Brothers, I mean, it's the Blues Brothers music. You're gonna sing along and listen to the music.
yeah. Some blues music is, it's just a good vibe between everything, and that's what really makes the movie, I think, great is the
Yeah.
the music and the type of comedy that you have in it, and a message of like everyone can be someone, and like you can try to do something better, something good, for not just yourself, like saving the orphanage from Jake and Elwood. you know
Yeah. Other than that, that's pretty much it.
yeah, I think
Oh,
we've covered everything. I mean, yeah, it's been like an hour and a half, I think we're at now, so
wow.
I think we're good.
I think we're good too. I mean,
Yeah,
hey,
thank you
hey,
so
thank you.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we covered a lot of good things, and we've been talking about doing this for a couple weeks now, and
Hmm.
I was happy to join you on the call here today. And also, it's just really nice to watch the movie again a couple times over recently. It's been one of my favorites since I've grown up, and yeah, it was really fun to talk about it.
Oh yes, yes, very, very good to talk about it. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, just to also anyway, that's a wrap for this. That's a wrap for this episode. So to everybody who's listening, what did you think of the Blues Brothers? Did you like the Blues Brothers? Do you think the Blues Brothers movie still holds up to this day? I would like to hear your thoughts about this. In my opinion, it holds up. It really holds up.
Yeah, in my opinion, yeah, even though the movie came out, what, 42 years ago now, which is crazy.
43,
Yeah,
43.
43. Yeah. So, I mean, it still holds up the humor. I showed one of our coworkers, Marcel Francis, the movie when we were roommates in college, and he saw it for the first time like a couple years ago, and he said he really loved it. He's watched it again since. So, anyone who hasn't watched the Blues Brothers, I think no matter like what you like or enjoy, what type of movies, I think you can really, find something from the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. So, anyway, that's a wrap on this episode. Thank you all for tuning in to Codo Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman.
And I'm Joe Kennedy.
Remember to watch movies and stay positive.